Hello everyone and dearly welcome to H689. We are recording here out in Sköllestad. It's a clouded, overcast day. Not too cold, it's a bit warmer than the day before, but it's winter coming round and we'll be expecting freezing temperatures at night time. Just want to put in a reminder for those ones who are interested in McGilchrist. Today, if I'm correctly informed, there will be a special event, 6:45, and I think that's Greenwich time. That would be 1 hour before our time in that case. And it's John Cleese and McGilchrist who's going to meet. Wow! It is a bit costly though. It will be a cost of £30.
Minimum.
Minimum £30, even for streaming. But I sure would have liked to see it. Hopefully it will maybe be broadcast on YouTube in a month or two. Nobody knows. Well, today I'm not going to talk about an author. Instead, this is quite unusual. A physiotherapist who made a dramatic discovery. His name is Ken Ware and he's interesting in many aspects. First, he was Mr. Universe, and in the training period and after that he received different problems, both strain related, pain related and tension related. And because of that, he developed different methods, and some of them are very, very unusual, to say the least. And this has been going on for a while. He had the fortune of treating somebody very famous who was a paraplegic, and he made it possible for that person to move about, when originally he wasn't even able to breathe for himself. It was a very severe case. That and similar cases have brought media to his attention, but it doesn't seem he written any books so far. So that's the first person we take up here who hasn't written any book, which is very unusual. The research that has been done though, thanks to this locomotion around his method, made both by the ones who want to support him, neutral people, and also people who want to contradict him, is immensely because of this revolutionary standard to it. And I want to talk a little bit how he sees emotions and feelings. And the name of the lecture today is What is Emotion? And you will be surprised, it's slightly different than what we usually think emotion is. But do remember here, he's not a philosopher, so he's going to use these words in a very, very common language way. Not too complicated, but still needs to take a little bit of getting known to. Well, this is how he defines them. Emotion, he calls in this context a basic physiological state characterized by identifiable autonomic or bodily changes. And feeling, he wants to separate there, and that is the internal subjective state that a person experiences. So he makes a division here, and there is a reason for that division. Our positive and negative emotions were never meant to cause us harm. Rather, they are meant to guide us to make good decisions. A positive or negative emotion, could be fear, anxiety, anger, etc., is a judgment a person has made about something or someone that usually incentives a decision and or an action. Fear, for example, is an emotion that signifies a judgment a person has made about something or someone, which usually incentives conscious or innate avoidance of the action. Whereas anger, on the other hand, could lead to attack. In theme here is the problematic growing populations of people who be conditioned to seemingly believe that somehow they should be protected from feeling emotions like fear, anxiety, or pain, and who actually fear experiencing any of these perceptions. Of course, we need to maintain our percepts of and psychophysical responses to fear, anxiety, and pain to keep us safe and to inhibit us from doing harmful things to ourselves and others. Conversely, people who claim to have no fear, anxiety, or do not experience pain would not only be at risk to themselves, but to society also if this were true. Experiencing fleeting moments of fear, anxiety, or pain is quite normal. Our reality is that our body and brain system self-organizes its own maintenance checks on itself to ensure that we maintain and keep these emotions and all other beneficial emotions in good working order. In the best interest of our survival. This innate form of self-organization and regulation more or less maintains our ability to keep this emotion tuned up. And in the process, percepts of fear, anxiety, anger, happiness, sadness, and the psychophysical sensations surrounding all other beneficial and socially required emotions can randomly emerge at unexpected moments. These essential phenomena create brief to short-term perceptions of fear, anxiety, anger, or sadness, for example, without any known or obvious reasons. In the healthy psychophysical system, these fleeting moments tend to be gated and disregarded without any real conscious effort, or are quickly rationalized as nothing to be concerned about and ignore. The subjective experience of physical and emotional pain involves all the same regions of the brain. So what Ken Ware is pointing to here is that emotions is part of a whole system. They're nothing separated from anything else. And here he points to a very, very important purpose for the emotions. They are those that makes us act. They are to be seen as the energy or the push that makes our thinking actually come to action. The prana, if you like that, or the key. It is innately deemed unnecessary that a dedicated neural schema that delivers these survival-based emotions, percepts, and appropriate responses do not atrophy, and will therefore not activate when they should be alerting us to something that we really need to be fearful of and to avoid. or not generate a sense of anxiety, to inform us that we need to be developing an appropriate well-planned avoidance strategy, or more beneficially altering whatever we are doing. And of course, nociception. Nociception is often regarded as a special sense, and those of you who went to the pharmacy recently and took a prescribed drug, or well, there's also non-prescribed drugs against pain, will notice that some of them are called something with nosy or something like that. That means pain. So it's a pill to take away the pain, and we call nociception a special sense in some cases, special sensory perception. And nociception is our sensory nervous system's response to harmful or potentially harmful stimuli. Pain detection and responses are very important for our survival. So if there has not been any actual harmful or life-sustaining stimuli to keep all of these neural pathways stimulated, then the brain-body system is quite capable of creating uncountable perceptions of fear, anxiety, sudden pain, or an ache even, to ensure our detection of and responses to these emotions are kept in good working order. Again, the healthy system will acknowledge it having an uncountable ache or pain perception, for example, and the person will either unconsciously or consciously gate or disregard the experience. Gate means stop, which will then negate the pain signal or dampen the ache through his unconscious or conscious form of negative feedback. So the pain we sometimes receive from different directions is a little bit the defense mechanism want to check themselves that they're still working. And especially in these days when we very seldom face real physical danger. We don't have any dangerous animals, there are very few accidents, we hardly have any wars or violence. So the systems need to check itself, and it can put a pain somewhere just to check it's working. I'd say it makes a lot of sense, especially if you compare to the autoimmune system. We know today that the autoimmune system does not receive the stimuli it needs. Our environment is no longer the dirty bacteria and virus-filled environment it used to be, especially since the beginning of the 20th century. We have beginning more and more to clean our houses to an extent that make them look like former times hospital. And we think now, especially when you grow up in that environment, that can actually make the autoimmune system attack itself because of lack of work to do. Doesn't have anything to do, it attacks itself. Allergy, asthma, my diabetes I'm suffering from myself is an autoimmune disease. It's the system attacking itself. And one aspect could very well be the cleanliness we're having, but it does not explain all of these reasons. For instance, why are we allergic to pets when we're exposed to them? But there is some certain contributing factor, I'm quite sure of that. And I'd say it, as usual with the body, it's a whole system. So different factors give a synergy effect. It's a word I mentioned before. And a synergetic effect is exponentially forceful. It makes it works much more forcefully. And so far his main point is that we today, in lack of real danger, starting to feel the response in ourselves. We're starting to fear the fear, or fear the anger, or fear the anxiety. And he's really to the point here. Anxiety attacks, which is very common, especially among young people these days, are more than often caused by fear of having an attack. That is the anxiety attack, because the turmoil of emotion gets too strong and we try to avoid it. And in this avoidance strategy, we are making it something even more than it was from the beginning. And this is completely similar to if you go to school and you have this bully somewhere. Are you trying to avoid him? He's going to grow bigger and bigger and bigger. You need to face him before that fear grows too hard. And the same goes with a very, very good advice if you fall off a horse. Get up in the saddle directly. Don't wait, not even a day. Get up in the saddle directly before you develop an internal fear of the whole thing. And I think those, this is a very old knowledge. Actually, if you wait a week, if your fall is really hard, it could be even impossible to get up in the saddle again, because you develop a fear of it. The avoidance tactics, it's what the body responds to. If you fall off the horse and you cannot ride the horse, the body will know that and will not force you to get up on the horse with a broken leg. But if you have the possibility, you can trick the body. It knows you can get up in the saddle, and it will detect there is a strategy going on. It could also be that the body is involved in this strategy of avoiding the perceived danger. And since the perceived danger is not a real danger, we create a dummy danger. And once we created one, the system gets used to creating things that don't exist. We teach the system to do that. In the end, the fear response becomes automatic and turns up every single second. Here Ken Ware has an excellent point. Let me demonstrate. It won't be too hard. I don't even have to face any fear, because today we're so accustomed to fear response. So just getting out of the chair will trigger it. Because I'm so accustomed to it, it's become a part of my movement strategy. It's in there already. So there's a little fear, and just the sheer customary things that we human beings do, we get accustomed to this. And in the end, our life is full of pain, displeasure, and as Strindberg said, this is just life. There's a Swedish author who had a depressing side to him sometimes. I think it's not, and that's not the point of Ken Ware. He means that we should rid us of the fear of fear, and that is the start of getting a balanced system, where the emotions work to our advantage, helping us, making our decisions informed by the context. This is a rather unusual thing to say. I had things that was in that ballpark, the part of the ballpark, but not as this clear. So the healthy system, when the nociception puts in its tryout, the system will sort of equalate that, and the pain disappears. I remember those pains when I was young. Sometimes they were called growing pains, but sometimes I realized I'm not growing anymore, or this is not growing pain, because it felt different. It was the system trying itself. And sometimes the pain could be quite intense, but somehow when you start looking at nothing happen, the pain, well, just disappears. But today, in an unhealthy system, chronic pain disease is not an unusual phenomenon. And there are people suffering from pain without having any reason whatsoever physically wrong with them. We actually have a friend who has that problem. He went to a masseuse, and something happened that was real, and after that he's been in constant pain and it won't leave him. And that's the pain response. The pain he feels, that's real. That can actually be tested. It's not an imaginary pain, but it's still created by the system. So you need to differentiate between feeling a pain and imagining a pain. It's two different things. You can imagine a pain of different reason. Children often do that. Grown-ups who don't want to go to work Monday, they can do that. But in the case of negative feedback, that's a real pain. It will be felt like a real pain. Maybe a bit different, but very hard to discern from real pain. And in the end, when the feedback loop is established, it will linger on, stay on, and not leave you. It's an amazing system, the bodily system. And we all the time need to understand it works like a Klein bottle. It's not pure one thing or the other. Pain is connected to the environment, but it's also separate in some ways. So our responses to perception of fear, anxiety and pain are predominantly via the sympathetic nervous system. SNS, I'm going to write that up. Need to remember that. SNS is, we actually mentioned many lectures ago. Sympathetic nervous system, which is a part of the autonomic nervous system. The SNS is responsible for flight and fight, in the context, and other sympathetic responses to external and internal and environmental stimuli and bodily sensations. If the sympathetic nervous system is activated, responses can quickly become amplified through positive feedback based on the individual's perception and subjective evaluation of the said stimuli or bodily sensation. Whereas gating or dampening of these percepts and responses is predominantly via the parasympathetic nervous system. That's the other one, PNS. You have two systems, SNS and PNS.